Hey, John and Lance from the bench, mornings on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Let's talk Rockets basketball. So much swirling out there. I'm going to tell you what, I think it's real, Lance. When you got all the Nets stuff that is going on, James Harden, telling Tillman that he wants out. James not taking $103 million extension. All the talk about him and Russ now. There's too much swirling around this organization. Of all the trade stuff going on, I'm actually starting to think that maybe Ben Simmons wouldn't be a bad thing. What about Ben Simmons coming here?
Yeah, for us, I mean, if James isn't going to be there, that's a start. I would say Ben Simmons is a start, but I would want more than that. The problem is you have to make.
Well, Daryl will give you draft picks.
Gives away first round picks. So
Daryl will give them to you, right?
Ben Simmons, one other salaried player, and some draft picks our way. Absolutely, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be nice. I'm hearing. I mean, there's stuff saying about Paul George, the Russ to the Clippers for Paul George, and maybe some other stuff. I can't believe the Clippers would be that dumb.
Nah, Kawhi Leonard knows how to win. I can't see that being the case. I mean, how does that help Kawhi Leonard win a championship, having crazy Russ? It doesn't help. He's not a defender. He's not a shooter, and he turns the ball over too much. Kawhi Leonard's not going to let that happen. I don't even pay any attention to that, other than the fact that the Clippers may want to get rid of the contract. Then you get another contract you don't like, and a guy that plays like a lunatic.
Longer. So, a longer contract that you don't like. That you don't like. Although they probably want a guy that's going to be there, a star that's going to be there, and Russ is still a star. So maybe that's out there. Although the rumor mill now is that there's very little interest in Russ out there, and I could certainly see that. What about the Nets with LeVert, Dinwiddie, Allen, and maybe some draft picks? Although the Brooklyn's not going to be drafting high, I would want their draft picks in 25 and 26. Or 24 and 26 as opposed to now.
I tell you, that one's interesting to me because you can get some talent back in return for James, and then you get draft picks. Now, the draft picks can be tied to the additional draft picks you're going to get for Covington that you can potentially move up in drafts. So I think accumulating draft picks matters because it does help you potentially scale up in the draft to go target a specific player. But any trade involving James, you need to get some core, at least, I would say you need to get at least two core pieces back. I mean, for me, unless it's really a superstar, and Ben Simmons is on the verge of being maybe a star level player, but he's definitely not a superstar. The other guys you just talked about, those aren't stars, but if you get core players back, that's important. You still will need a star at some point, but most of the stars you see around the league have been drafted if you think about it. So you can't really rebuild with young players who turn into stars unless you start drafting some young players. So right. That's what's important here.
Well, that's the core of a team that went to the playoffs in the East. I know it's not the East, and they'd be a borderline playoff team in the West, but you're no more than a 6th seed now as a Rockets anyway. Right. You're right now in a transitional, and let's face it, it might be, I don't know, maybe James just doesn't want to play for Tillman. Maybe he's pissed that he didn't get, he didn't have a say in the head coach. But whatever the reason, if he pulls an AD here and he says, I'm not playing, you got to grab whatever you possibly can. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be all that was a nice little group that they had going in Brooklyn.
So you think about this, the train is headed down, like it's headed back down the mountain, right? It's coming back down the other way. The more you keep it the way it is, the greater the chances that there will be drama, that James will say something, that Russ will leak something, that it becomes a nastier situation. And then all of a sudden, you have less and less leverage. Right now, yeah, it looks like you don't have leverage because James is saying he wants out. But, if you want to do business with the Rockets, Brooklyn, you've got to go through the Rockets and you've got to make them a legitimate deal. And as long as Rafael Stone has the sense to make a reasonable deal and understand what that looks like, then there is a chance right now that both teams are on equal footing from a leverage standpoint because KD may be pounding the table, get this done, get this done, get this done. If you don't get it done, I will guarantee you that there will be more leaks There will be more stories about Tillman. There will be more stories about James and Russ. It's just going to get ugly. You're better off doing it earlier than later.
Yeah. And the East, probably now with the Bucks getting Drew Holiday, they're better. So we got to get better too. So maybe they got to bring James Harden in Philadelphia, or they got to bring James Harden to Brooklyn, whatever the case may be. That definitely could be factor into. And by the way, you might get more if you're the Rockets now because of that.